Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're doing great. P.S. If you know where that quote is from, comment down below, and I will love you forever. My name is Naomi, and this is my podcast, Getting to Know Me. So a little while back, I did my first episode with Jess, my friend, and we were hanging out. Suddenly had a weird idea of going, hey, let's do an interview type thing. And then she said, yeah, she was a really great sport. I plonked the microphone right in front of her, and we just ended up talking for like 30-40 minutes. And then I just decided to make a podcast. So that's how it started. We birthed from there. My friend from California actually listened to it and was like, oh, that's so great. And then we ended up talking about a month ago, and she was just like, oh, I'd really like to do it with you. And I was just like, pardon me? I didn't think anybody really liked it. I just was like, oh, they must be just being nice to me. But anyway, we have recorded a second podcast. However, it was a bit long just to plonk it all on one, so I've split it into two. We had a few questions on Instagram, and I had a few people message me what they want me to talk to Rebecca about and vice versa. So the first one is kind of a bit of like get to know us, how we met, what were our first impressions. So the first half is about our first impressions, kind of a backstory of us and how we met each other. And then we kind of went into a few different topics like social media, how we view today's world and how it kind of affects relationships and communication. So even though it's split into two, it's still quite a long episode, so I do recommend like either having it on in the background or whatever you want to do. It does hit on some really good points, like we both do say some really good things, so I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Naomi.
So, you wanted to do this podcast
Yes.
with me?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Well, the last one that you did, I loved and I listened to, and I thought how cool it is that you're just sitting down and talking with someone. I think you were with them, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, like, we basically do that same thing when we talk.
It's true.
whenever we FaceTime, when we talk for like hours and we're, having
go
like
deep on our FaceTimes.
Yeah. And I the last time that we FaceTimed, I said, hey, I really want to do this because I think that you and we do go deep, and I think we're both pretty introspective and like self-aware for our age and for like, our mental health. And I think that is important, and I love having those conversations with other people. So like having a podcast and getting to talk and like, open conversations with other people that way through one conversation is a cool opportunity.
That's a great answer.
Well, thank you. I didn't even have to think about it.
What a great start. So when I talk to my friends about you and Melanie and that whole situation, they're super confused. I don't know if you've like had the same like reaction with your friends when you've like talked to them about me and vice versa, but they're just like, I don't understand how you've met someone from the other side of the world and you're like immediately like super close, all this other stuff. So I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Well, I think when I like mention you to other people or talk about our friendship, I think that the assumption is just that like, oh, I know someone who lives in England, and like, and I have that with like a handful of people that I met when I studied abroad 4 years ago. Was that we met?
It was 4 years ago.
So like, I think that the assumption is just like, oh yeah, she knows somebody in England. But when we met, like seeing each other face to face was like really the first time that we met. Like we had like one conversation on Facebook saying like, hey, here's what I look like. I'm going to stay with you for 10 days, cool. Make sure you're here at this time. Like that was it. And so it's really like, I don't really know how to describe it. Like you're saying you're struggling with that too. Like I have never gone from like strangers to like emotional intimacy so quickly. And I think part of that is like just like the physical intimacy or like vulnerability of coming into a brand new country that I've never been before and staying not just like with you in a flat, like with your family, and like getting from the, like, your brother picked us up and like took us from the air, like the what is it, airport. I couldn't remember that word. So, like, took us from there, and then like you picked us up at the train station, and then we like had dinner with your parents, and it was just so quickly, it felt like we were welcomed. And so I think a part of that is just your family, that they so easily welcomed Melanie and me, just like you did. And you guys made this beautiful little, you know, makeshift home in that, like, you know, conference room. And like, I think that start helped with just having such an open and vulnerable friendship. Also, I was super sick when we landed. I had a sinus infection when we were in Venice. So then flying, I thought I was dying. I really did. Like, I thought my head was gonna explode. Like, Melanie's trying to talk to me on the plane, and I'm just like, I'm about to die. Like, it's gonna happen. And so I just was so kind of like beaten down, you know, that like we got there, and I didn't have any chance to like protect myself, because I do that. Like, I try to like filter, okay, I'm meeting someone new, I want them to think this about me, and I want them to see this about me, or I want to come across as this. And I came into your home like miserable, could not hear, like already I was trying to hear your guys' accent and was mishearing everything, so I was responding wrong to everything, and it was so embarrassing, but I had like no energy to do anything different.
So good. So good.
And
what was your first impression of like me, us, all the Englishness?
Well, I remember your brother picked us up, and so that was like the first, like, you know, okay, the first person that's talking to us, and he was with his friend, and they were just like skating through the airport. So I was like, okay, this is, you know, this is interesting. And then you picked us up, and I just remember it was just very like, you were so efficient. Like, we like had our bags, and we're sitting on the curb, and you're like, hi, hello, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just came from, we were working at like the phone company, or, and so you were like, I just came from my job, and you like threw our bags in the trunk and like opened the doors, and we're like, come, and it was just like the fastest from like meeting to getting in someone's car, and then just like going somewhere. And it was,
I literally just like dropped you off at the house and then went back to work.
So we met, but then we didn't really get to talk to you, because you were just like a transportation from point A to point B. But you know, you were just so, you know, welcoming. That's what, like, everybody, like, we could have just gotten a taxi from the airport, you know, to your guys' house, but like your brother took time out of his day, you took time out of your work day to come and take us. And then the other thing, like, we got there, and your dad asked me and Melanie, what do you want to eat for dinner? And we said fish and chips, because that's like the most British thing we could think of. So your dad goes out and brings food for us, and then we all go in that room, and we all sit around the table, and it's only after we're halfway through our meal that we learn that your whole family is vegetarian. And so you're all eating like chips and potatoes and like vegetables and like, you know, something else. And it, like, that hit me of like, there was an opportunity to say like, oh, like, we're just not comfortable, we don't eat meat, like, you know, if that's fine. But like, there was no, it was, your family didn't make us feel uncomfortable, and we didn't, you know, it was just such a normal, natural thing of like, sure, like, this is what you want, we'll provide it for you, and we'll, you know, that, man, I just love your family.
I've taught them well.
Yep.
They were in rough shape before you met them. I remember talking to our mutual friend, and then trying to find you on social media, and only seeing maybe like 1 or 2 pictures of you. I don't think I've ever actually told you about this. And I just remember seeing only like 1 proper picture. I don't know where you were, but you like had this beanie on, and you just looked so like washed out. Like, you just didn't look Like, you were a completely different person, like,
Oh, man.
to the picture that I met. It was just like, okay, hello.
Well, that's really funny, because the only two things on social media that I saw of you, one of was your profile picture, and you were in the car, and I think you were wearing,
Yeah.
I remember that, so, like, that was your profile picture, and then, like, the first thing on your feed, you had just posted a video of you wearing, like, a bowler hat, and you were singing to Lion King, and I was like, okay, we're gonna be okay. Like, she's really weird and funny, and I'm going to jive with that so well.
That's hilarious. Insert clip here. Insert clip. That's amazing. Yeah, because I literally was working, like, most of the first trip that you were here.
Yeah.
Bar one day where, like, I could have gone to Liverpool, but work, like, screwed up my schedule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So it was really
So
just, like,
we all really spent nice together, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You took us to the Calvary. Another great example of me not being able to understand through your accent. That whole day you had that night off, and you told us in the morning, you said, okay, tonight I'm gonna take you to what I thought you said was the Calvary, which I thought was some church thing, and I was like, okay, sure. And again, don't ask questions, like, just, whatever, like, we'll do whatever it is you want us to do. And so the whole time, and then you come and you pick us up, and we're like, I don't know, I guess I can go to a church thing. And we, like, get to the parking lot, and we're walking, and we're like, is this a restaurant? And you're like, yeah, it's Carvery. I was like, wait, what are you saying? We're ready for church.
I also remember from the Carvery, you guys, we were just like, oh, you should try Yorkshire puddings. And I like, specifically remember, you guys put your Yorkshire puddings, like, on a napkin next to your plate, and we were all just like, what the hell are they doing? It's like, it's a savoury thing, you absolute plonkers.
We also thought it was pudding.
Yeah.
Like, eat with a spoon. Melanie was like, well, where's the pudding? We're like, it's this bread thing. So many things that we learned.
So many things. So many things. What was your favourite, like, because you did a lot of travelling, like, in that first week alone. You went to, like, Liverpool and all that kind of...
Yeah.
And then you were actually there when my nephew was born.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because we went, that's when we went, that was the day we went to London. Because we just rode down with you, and then we, like, were outside the house, and then we, like, took the tube and, went around. Yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's, like, nearly 4. Well, he'll be 4 when we're 4.
What a magical reunion.
What was, like, the hardest thing, like, to adjust to when you were here with us?
Oh, that's a good question.
Other than the accent.
Well, I think, honestly, that trip was, like, healing for me. Like, because that was, like, nearing the end of the time that we were studying abroad. So that was November. No. Yeah, it was in November. It was, like, the early November.
October, November.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because we were there for Halloween.
Yeah.
And so we went home at the very beginning of December. So we'd already been in Europe for 3 months, and I was really homesick. And so, like, and then I got really sick, like, actually sick. Yeah. And then coming and staying with you felt like a home. Like, we were literally staying in a home. And I remember, like, I had really wanted to take a bath, because in our study center, we had, like, this tiny little, like, square shower. And especially feeling so sick, and I was, like, so, I don't know, like, embarrassed to ask, and, like, you and your mom were like, absolutely, like, come on in, and, like, I got to take a bath, which, like, made my sinuses feel so much better, and you made us, like, 5 cups of tea every day. Like, you guys brought us the fresh little, like, glass jars of milk, and I just drank tea to my heart's content. And it was just, like, I think studying abroad was hard. It's, like, one of the best things I've ever done. And I loved it. But it really was hard and, like, isolating. Yeah. But I think coming and staying with you for those first 10 days was, like, the best part of
Yeah.
like studying abroad, because I felt so just like safe and welcomed, and I felt like I was a part of a family, even if it wasn't like my family back home. It felt like
Yeah.
I was welcomed in. I really can't remember what the hardest thing was. I don't remember anything being hard about it, which is nice.
No, what you said then though, like, I totally agree. Like, I've never ever done it, but like, I've just never had such a quick connection like with someone as I've had with like you guys. It's the weirdest thing ever. Yeah. Like, it's literally just like instant. And then I remember getting you guys presents, like, and I sent them over, and then you were just like, and this is me, and this is me. Like, you got like that spot on. Like, after like meeting you literally for like a week.
Yeah.
That was so bizarre, because I was just like, oh,
this is
my stand,
but this is like
hey.
this is my stand for my microphone right now. But like, that was the journal that you gave me that is so like spot on. It's my travel journal now. All that, like, the last time that we were in England, I have like all my like little journal notes and like tickets and pictures in there from that. So that was so bizarre. Literally just straight away, it's just like, yeah, I know this about you. Like, we were so similar as well. Yeah.
Like, about everything. Literally everything.
Well, what I think is weird is, like, sometimes I'll get, like, a jolt of just, like, I don't know if it's self-confidence or if it's just, like, you know, like, happy recklessness, but, like, I'll go out and I'll just, like, you know, talk to people that I've never met before. Like, I don't, you know, and just, like, in a coffee shop or like at a party that I went to, you know, and it will seem like we connect, and then it'll never fit again. You know, like, I've had that feeling where I'm like, wow, like, we're getting along so well, but it's kind of like a one-time thing. And I think that's what's been so cool about our friendship is, like, we really did hit it off so quickly, like, bizarrely fast. And
it's like,
and then we don't
how, like, quick it was.
And then we don't see each other, like, unless we make the time to FaceTime and talk and like keep putting the work in. Like, we're never gonna see each other, but like, we're not gonna run into each other. And I think that is what's like really like cool and special about our friendship. It's so special. So gross.
So, doing a little side swipe, one of our questions was, how do you feel about the long distance aspects of our relationship?
Oh, geez. It's hard.
It's so hard. I hate it so much.
I know. It's weird to think about what it would be like if we lived in the same city, because we've never known that, you know? So, like, a part of it, I'm not saying that, like, our friendship is good because it's long distance. I think it's the opposite. Like, I think our friendship would be even stronger if we lived in the same city. But I think, like, as like a general thing that I think about myself, I think I'm not very good at keeping in contact when I'm not seeing people. So, like, after I left San Diego to go to college, I didn't keep in contact with everybody that I was friends with, you know, and like, and kept in contact with a good handful. And it's the same with college. Like, after I left college, and that, I think that's natural of, you know, like, okay, well, you know, some friendships are made for a specific season or a specific, you know, area or place that you're at. But I think our friendship has always been long distance. So it's like, from the get-go, it's like, okay, like, we know if we're going to stay connected, we need to be talking on social media, we need to be texting each other, we need to be FaceTiming, and sometimes it's a lot harder than others. Like, one thing that you said, like, we are very, very similar, like, just, I think our emotional build is very similar, and that's very rare to find someone that both of us are comfortable with in, like, being honest and sharing, especially, like, in the heat of it. What I tend to do, and I know that this makes it hard for our friendship, is like, I tend to like be going through something, but I won't, like, in the moment call you or talk to you about it, because one, our time difference is difficult. So, like, I'm going through something, you're almost guaranteed to be asleep, or like it's sleeping hours, you know, and vice versa.
But as much as I give you a hard time for it, like I am the exact same.
yeah, like that. But also what is really cool is like there have been instances in both of our lives, like, and I'm like, where just like there's just something devastating that's happened, and I will call you like crying, like literally terrible, like have not showered, like I'm not, like I'm alone because I'm, you know, house sitting or something, like there's nobody around me, but like we'll just sit on FaceTime for hours because I know that like you are going to get me in that state and are going to like say things that are going to be helpful and are just going to be like the person who's going through this with me. And I love that has been like our history, that there is that. But, you know, that I think it takes the same level of intentionality. Like if I'm going to call somebody here and say, hey, I need you, come here in 20 minutes. It's the same level of intentionality as texting you and saying, hey, let's FaceTime in 20 minutes. Like, it's just as hard to include somebody in, like, those hard parts of life.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think because most of our, like, friendship has been, we're miles away, like, opposite ends of the world, basically.
Yeah.
That, I think, like I said, because we are so similar, like you said, like, emotionally and how we deal with things, that's been even harder because you're the person that I would want to go to, good or bad, with anything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we're robbed of that closeness. Even though, like, FaceTime is amazing. Like, FaceTime has been, like, the biggest blessing for us. But, like, you are probably the only, well, pretty much the only person that I'd go to in, like, if something horrific happened or something great happened, like you're the person I want to like celebrate with and cry with. Yeah. So that's just been like the worst thing, and I think that's why, like, in different times we've both just like recluded a bit, just because that's our.
It makes it harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really does. I think, and I know I'm this way, and I think you're the same way of like. Yeah. Just like face to face, but like being able to like hold your hand or like touch your shoulder or like give you a hug. Like that is such a big part of my love language and of like feeling connected with someone. And like you said, like we're kind of robbed of that. Like that, I mean, you know, we're doing fine, but but you know, the fact that, you know, you get to do that with your friends and I get to do that with my friends, like where we are, it does make it a little harder.
I think it would be good if we lived, like, in the same place. I think it'd just be, like...
Yeah, I think it would be natural.
Yeah, totally. So if anyone wants to give me a job in San Diego, that would be amazing as well. Yes, please. I'd love you forever. I'd like you for always. So, what is it from?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, she's so annoying. Friends.
It's from Friends?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Joey. He read the book to Emma on her birthday.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew that all along.
I'm terrible with quotes.
Terrible. Another question that we had was, how is life in our 20s?
Just in general?
Just in general. In work, in anything really. Like, how are you finding it?
Well, life in my 20s is bizarre.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, I graduated college and then I got married. And so I'm 25 now. And so I'm halfway through. And I think just like my life theme right now is just like unmet expectations and learning how to deal with that in like a healthy, loving way, like loving to myself and loving to everyone around me, because I have so many like expectations of like what being a working professional was going to look like, what it was going to feel like, and what like friendships look like now that I am a working professional. And, you know, I have friends kind of all over the world, but now I'm in this one place. And so what that looks like and what marriage looks like is so different. And then how that affects like friendships and work and family and, you know, everything. A lot has changed for me. and
Yeah.
I'm a pretty inflexible person, so
Yeah.
so I'm being, I think, like, for me, my 20s are just learning about flexibility and learning about a lot of grace, giving it to myself and giving it to my family and my husband and my friends and my church, and just kind of, realizing that my whole life I've been kind of waiting and dreaming and anticipating what being an adult looks like, and and now I'm kind of like, I'm hitting all of these things of like what I was waiting for, of like being a college graduate, having a full-time job, being married, like, having my own home. And it's not that it's disappointing, it's just not what I expected. And I am like being trained and, challenged a lot in like, okay, well, now that I'm, getting life experience that's not what I expected it to be, am I going to respond with like, frustration and bitterness and, being angry just like at life or towards other people because they're not what I expected? Or do I just learn to be flexible and like ask God a lot for that kind of, that kind of provision? So, I mean, that's really what my 20s look like. What about you?
Yeah. I think, like what you said, like, expectations are a fickle thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, literally, like, 5 years ago, you couldn't tell me that I am where I am now. I just wouldn't believe you. Like, you just think you're so far ahead.
Yeah.
Of, like, your expectations are just so much higher that you can, like, be able to do at certain times.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that for you, like, we talked about, like, in the second year of, like, knowing each other, it's like, oh, like, I'd like to get married, like, towards, like, the end of my 20s, and now you're already married, like, at 25. Like, that's just, like, crazy. Like, you just can't really plan your life, although you try to. It's just not a feasible thing that you can be like, hey, I want to do this in a year. If I don't meet anyone, I'm losing at life. It's like, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
There's no, like, you just set yourself up for failure a lot when you put it so high.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, you've been struggling with different stuff, and it's like, well, if your expectations would have been lower, would you still feel the same way? Yeah. I'm really wise. You listen to me a lot, and you do that face a lot. And it's like, yeah, you're so right.
I'm like, yep, that hit right there.
But yeah, I think it's just, like you said, it's a case of being humble and not putting that much pressure on yourself that it warps everything else around you. Like, it takes a lot of the joy out of your face, dude. It takes a lot of the joy out of, like, big exciting things when you have, like, such a high expectation for them and you put them on such a pedestal. Like,
yeah.
You know, for us both, before you had even Luke in your life, we both, like, talked about marriage and what marriage would look like, and you getting a job, that was a big thing for you as well. It's just like trying to get from A to B without losing a lot of faith in yourself, without Yeah.
A good example of what you're talking about, which was like 2 sentences ago, but it follows, so walk with me. So a good example is that Luke, like, in our marriage, we've found that I'm a lot more ungracious towards myself than I am towards him. And it's interesting how that plays out, because and it takes me a while to realize why, like, what exactly it is that I'm feeling. So I'll just kind of start feeling really discontent and or feeling like upset about things. And my first response is like, oh, it must be something that Luke is doing wrong, you know? And that's like my selfish, sinful heart being like, let me pin this on something else. And so it like takes a while. And then I'm realizing that my discontent is coming from myself, because I'm expecting myself to be this type of wife or respond to things in this type of way, or, I'm expecting that just a reality of my life is not going to be a reality soon, And so like you said, I'm setting myself up to fail because I'm expecting something that's just not gonna happen. And then I'm getting really angry with myself because that's true. And then I'm taking it out and like turning it towards Luke.
Yeah.
And there have been so many times that I've had to like come to him and like apologize and ask his forgiveness of like, I've been making you feel like you're failing because I feel like I'm failing and I was not ready to deal with that, you know?
Yeah.
And he's just like filled with like the Lord's grace and love and mercy and is always so forgiving and understanding and encouraging in that. So that's just such a perfect example though of like, yes, like we are very hard on ourselves, and that how that affects our relationships is it's rocky.
I think that as well, like our culture pressurizes, is that a word? Pressurizes us to do that. Like it's so much like harder to be happy or angry or sad about something in nowadays culture just because of like social media and putting up a front and being this type of way, and if you're not this type of way then it's not right, it should be different, it should be better, it should be blah blah blah, and it puts a lot of pressure, like you say, on like your marriage. And I don't even think you always think of it as like stuff like that, but it is a factor in a lot of relationships nowadays, or marriages or anything. It's like it's completely different than what it was like when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Because like we grew up and it was just like everything looks fairly good. That's what I want. If it's not like that or better, then it's not for me. Like there's so much pressure on it, and with social media mixed in with the like, I want to portray it as this thing, and if I'm struggling, I'm not going to tell anyone about it because no one else is struggling, because no one else posts about it.
Oh, it's so real. I want to talk to you about that though, because we talked about that the last time that we FaceTimed, and then you were like talking a little bit in your Instagram stories about that, about like vulnerability on social media. Yeah, I want to talk to you about that.
No,
so
go for it.
I've talked to Luke about this, and he doesn't use social media. He has has Facebook, but you know, like he's just is kind of choosing to not.
Minimal.
So and I love pictures. So like I love Instagram because I love looking at pictures of like food and design and people's families, and you know, even like just people, you know, selfies. Like I love it. I love it all. I love pictures. And I struggle so much like just with what it is that I'm putting out there about finding a balance between, I don't necessarily think, and this is for me, you know, like I think other people, you know, do this and I love it and I follow them for it, but like I don't necessarily want to be writing like a whole book as a comment for my, or whatever you call it, the thing that you put under your picture. So, but at the same time, like, I don't want to just be posting pictures that are like, had a great day, because I will go back and look through my college years, and I will look, like, I can remember every single picture that I took and remember how I felt, and the majority of them, I'm severely depressed. You know, and like, and I remember this day so vividly, and I remember taking that picture, and I remember how miserable I was, but I posted it, and it's just like, you know, sun emoji, flower emoji, like, you know, day at the beach, you know, like, and I've spent the majority of my life feeling like I'm alone, and that like largely has to do with my depression and my anxiety, and so, like, how are we combating that feeling? And social media, I'm sure, I haven't done a ton of research, but, you know, I've read articles online, so, you know, that's basically the same thing. That's a joke. It's an irony. About how looking at pictures and looking at people's lives and not seeing a similarity between, you know, one snapshot and your life, how that is super isolating. And so I am like constantly towing this line, especially now that I'm married, and we've been married 9 months now, and it's been very challenging. It's been so supremely good, but being married is really, really hard, and learning to love someone and like be in like being unified with someone is so difficult, and it's a lot of work, and it's felt I've felt like really, you know, a lot of things in the last 9 months. And so I'm trying to find like a balance between being honest and being real and vulnerable, but like what is the appropriate setting, you know? And I love what you did, because we talked and then you just did Instagram stories, and you were just kind of like vlogging of like, here's what I'm thinking, and anybody has any thoughts, like, respond. And I'm interested if anybody did, like, respond to you, because I, like, your vlogging was, like, you know, hitting pins in my head of, like, oh, okay, I'm thinking more about this now, and I wonder how I feel about this. And I am, like, I still feel kind of lost in, like, what is the good. Like, I don't really use many other types of social media. I use Facebook to keep in touch with family largely, and like I post pictures there if I'm updating my family about something, and really that's it. But like Instagram is like my one social media that I use and enjoy, that like keeps me connected with people, and I am still kind of baffled as to how to be real and honest and like show the ugly things, but also not just have it be a platform to complain, you know, or just a platform of like, everything sucks and here's all that's wrong with the world, and you know, absolutely. I don't want to be that type of voice either. I don't have any answers. I'm just asking a lot of questions.
I said on that post.
On your stories?
Yeah.
I think it was just like 3 or 4, so it was just like, you know, a little string of consciousness kind of thing. But we had just gotten off FaceTime, and you had said that you had also had that same kind of conversation with someone else. So you're like, so I've talked to 2 people recently just about social media and wanting to have it be more real. And how do we do that? Like, you were just asking questions out to the world. And I don't know if anybody responded.
My thing with social media, because I'm in photography and videoing and that goes along with social media, I feel frustrated in the fact that I have to be professional. I feel like my Instagram isn't mine anymore. I feel like it has to be work related, or people aren't interested. Like, that's what I struggle with a lot. I would have deleted Facebook long ago if I didn't have like my business page on Facebook and stuff like that. And there's been, I think since the beginning of me starting using Facebook, like I went through a period of just like spewing a load of stuff that I needed to get off my chest on Facebook, but like never sharing it. So like it'll pop up in memories going, oh, I felt this today, I felt this. I'm just like, fuck, like someone else could be like doing the exact same thing, and like why didn't I share it? Because you're just in a rut and a culture of, if you aren't living like the perfect life on social media, then something's wrong with you. You should probably go and like talk about it with someone professional. And it's just like, well, no, like if these people are supposed to be my friends on Facebook, and I'll use that term very loosely because there's about 5 people on Facebook that I actually talk to regularly, and I'm just like, everyone else just feels like they're stalking me. Like, they don't have any input in my life. They don't feel like they want to know what you're doing. They just want to know, like, it's not like a genuine like, oh, what you up to? It's like, oh, what are you doing? Like, checking up on you type thing. So that's been a big thing that I've thought about the last few months. It's just like, I remember when Instagram was introduced and it was supposed to be like, post your life stories and post what you're doing, and now it's just like, if you aren't coming across in a particular way, like me having to do photography or videoing or whatever, it's just very surface level. Like, there's nothing else. Like, people expect it to be surface level, and anything else they don't want. So that's why I probably splurted. I've just been thinking about that for years and years and years.
Well, I found a really cool niche on Instagram, which is like young mothers. And it feel like I have to tell myself that I'm not being creepy, because I'm not. Like, my Instagram page is open. So, like, anybody can see my page and can follow me. They don't have to request.
Yeah.
And so, in my mind, like, okay, if somebody else has that, then, like, they're wanting followers. Like, a lot of these women are, you know, using Instagram in some way, like, to save money or to make money, you know, or, like, make connections with brands. So, like, that's fine. They're fine with me following them. I have to tell myself I'm not being creepy. But I follow maybe like 20, and it started out with women that I knew, and now it's just like women that they follow. So now it's like I don't know a lot of these women. Most of them live somewhere in the United States, but they're just very like open and honest about sharing like their parenting journey. And I really like, I admire that kind of vulnerability, and I found that specifically in like young parents, or like parents to young children. Not necessarily the parents are young, but like they're usually very open about their marriages, and they're usually very open about like struggles with parenting and just how that is hard. And they usually are like writing a whole paragraph under each picture, or they'll just vlog for like 10 minutes on stories. And like that's not stuff that I'm comfortable yet doing, but I really appreciate that. So I've probably like midway through college, I was just feeling really like overwhelmed, and like there's no hope for me on social media, because it's like everybody's the same. And so I took maybe like 6 months, and I went off social media. I went off Instagram. And just like didn't post anything, didn't look at anything, was like, it's fine, like I don't need it. And then have like started to find people, like I love following designers, because they're like usually very open about their business and about like their work, and it's usually more professional, but like, you know, I would like to know professional things about being a designer. So I'm realizing that the more people that I follow who I admire on social media is giving me a little bit more confidence. I think there's a new wave that's coming. I don't think that it's like taken over any type of social media yet, because I still think we're largely a culture that wants things to be perfect and wants things to look a certain, we all want to look a certain way. We all want people to see us a certain way, and we have to fight past that desire, I think, to get to vulnerability. Because if you don't fight past that, then you're just going to keep living in that cycle of like, well, I need to look a certain way, and I know that I'm not, but nobody else is, you know, that never-ending horrible cycle. I think there's a wave, though. I really do, of like, people are realizing that and fighting, and they're taking this opportunity to be vulnerable and honest on a platform that is not, you know, wasn't designed for that, you know, it hasn't turned that way in a long time.
That's good. No, I totally agree, but it's it's just a filter culture that we are forced into at the moment, and like I feel like if more people were open and honest, like even though like I love Instagram is the only like social media that I actually like participate in. It's just because everything else sucks. And I'm like, when I did that post, I remember like a few different people going, oh, like, I feel the exact same way, like absolute truth, blah 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 blah. And I was like, it shouldn't take a post like that for people to be like, can I just share how I'm feeling? Like it should just be a thing that we do anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like it was such a big thing of like years ago when people like met each other online, or like, oh, I'm talking to this new person, like it was really exciting, and everybody like said their piece and stuff. And like I've recently, like not recently, like over the last few months, I've connected with like my friend from Michigan, another American, and it's just like, oh, you like this and then you like this. It's like, I'm just gonna be really real with you straight on, like let's just be open and have a better connection. And I don't want to have friendships based on social media anymore. Like I hate it. I hate the social media effect, and I hate that like a lot of the time you can just have a filter with your friends. It's really weird. I hate it so much.
I'm going to be honest, the big reason that I wanted to do this podcast is because I still feel that like I'm confining myself because I'm putting a filter on myself. And and I'm not doing it because I want to appear glamorous. I'm doing that because I'm like horribly like self-conscious, you know. I remember in so my last year of college, and there's a Melanie story. So I was in the same studio for 6 months, and I'm initially a very shy person. I get very nervous when I'm meeting new people, and I feel like I don't, like, it's sad to say, but I feel like I'm just like not enough to like be friends with other people. And so I was in studio for 6 months, and I had Melanie and I had a handful of other friends who I was close with for the whole program, and we went out, like, the whole studio and our professor went out like 2 or 3 weeks before our senior project was due. So like it's like the end, you know. And we went out and we all, like, you know, got a drink and ate food and just like mingled and chatted, and I was feeling, it was again one of those times where I had this burst of confidence of like, yes, like school's almost done, we did it, end is in sight, like I get to put clothes on that are not sweatpants, and like, you know, like I was feeling really good. And so I'm like chatting and talking with all of these people that were in my studio, and like that night or the next night, Melanie and I were talking about how fun that was, and she said like, oh yeah, like this person and this person and this person all told me like how cool you were, and not like cool, like just how they thought that. No, I asked, she's like, yeah, they're like, wow, she's actually really nice, like she's actually really friendly, like talking about me. And I said, do I come across as unfriendly? Do I come across as like stuck up? And she's like, yeah, I think a lot of people have that impression of you just because I kept to myself. And so, and that's like, that's not like, I think that's just like a situation, you know, like I don't think that there's anything wrong with these people who like had that impression of me, and I don't know if I could have done anything differently because I was just doing my best, like at that point in my life, you know, I was just trying to graduate and did not have a ton of energy or a lot of self-confidence to like go and like make a lot of friends, but that's stuck with me. And I still to this day, it's like I remember how I felt growing up and how I still occasionally feel of like seeing people and thinking like they are way too cool for me, like they must think, you know, this and this, and there's no way that I can like compare to that. But I don't want to, like, one, that's my own flaws, like I'm comparing myself and I'm just putting, you know, my thoughts and applying it to them, so that's my own issue. But in the same breath, I don't ever want to intentionally make someone else feel that way, feel that like I'm unapproachable or I am, you know, uninterested in being someone else's friend. And so I think like social media plays a big part of that. And I think just in life in general, I want to be able to be vulnerable, and you and I have such an easy time in that, and I don't have any insecurities when it comes to our friendship. And so I thought, hey, if we get to do a podcast and I get to kind of, you know, be vulnerable. And you get to be vulnerable, and if anybody else is able to see this, then that's like an opportunity, an invitation to like, let's be vulnerable together now. Like, I'm not very good at putting that forward to other people, but I want to.
I think it's a challenge for everyone, really, that, like, when I was, like, growing up in church and youth and doing different stuff, like, I felt like I was the one who always kind of, like, integrate people and welcome people, and I was the one that everybody came, like, in a crisis to, and I feel like that's just not a thing that people see as much of anymore, because not even like specifically me, as in just in general, like even like emotions or people, how they deal with things, you feel like you can't deal with things in the same way because of social media. Like if somebody doesn't post for a week, like no one cares, and that's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like it should be a thing that like when you're texting people or doing anything, it's just like we've written like letters to each other before, and we have calls all the time, and it's just a thing that social media should be as transparent as talking to someone over the phone, I think, personally.
I saw a really funny thing, like a meme on the internet that was saying like being a millennial or like living in this day and age is like talking to the same person using 3 different like social media platforms and having 3 completely different conversations. And I think that's super true for people that I don't see. You know, like for all of my friends that I went to college with, for you, for anybody else that's like not in San Diego, like we're like Snapchatting and Instagram and like Facebook Messenger and texting and FaceTime, and I appreciate that. I think that is a really like that's a cool opportunity that social media gives us. And that's just what you're saying is like that should feel like that all the time of like like social media should be just as important as like giving a phone call or like shooting a text. Is like if you're trying to connect like I just think that in general there's like laziness when it comes to social media of like like I can post something whatever, and or like someone will put something out there and you're like like you know I could say something but I won't, and like it's such an opportunity to connect with people and to like ask questions and dive in and like get to know someone more, but there's just such a laziness of like I just did my post for the week, or I did my post for the day, or I commented because, you know, I didn't have anything to say, but I just said, you know, great. When there's an opportunity to, like, have so much more.
It's even laziness with, like, communication. I don't even think communication is such a priority to anyone anymore. Like, it doesn't matter how old they are.
Yeah,
I just feel like everybody should, or shouldn't, everybody just doesn't have the priority, like... Phone calls ended up stopping. Text messages are now stopping. Emails are now like not a priority. And it's just like, if the only communication is social media and you're not being truthful or like real or vulnerable on social media.
Were you gonna tell my story? Do you remember that? There were you're saying I'm wondering if we have the same story. There was there was a friend and we had a falling out for a little bit, and then he texted me after like a good amount of time and was like, hey, how are you doing? And I was like, oh, like, you know, like we'd lost that vulnerability. And so I was like, you know, like, I mean, like my life's going. And he's like, well, I mean, I've seen your social media, so I know you're doing well. And then like, you know, finished his sentence. And I don't remember if I like called it out to him or if I just like read it and like said it to you and was like, what a weird thing to say. Like, I think
that rubs me the wrong way all the time.
I think that I don't know, but for me, like, I know that social media is not an adequate representation of most people's lives.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, I would never say like, oh, I've seen your Instagram, so I know how your life is. I think it's helpful to like track like life events of like, oh, this person became an aunt, this person got married, this person, you know, finished paying off their loans, like whatever is like a big thing that somebody's going to post about, like, yes, that is a good track, but don't ever assume that like someone's social media is a good representation of their like well-being and health. Like health is a big thing too of like, you know, it's rare that people post about health issues on social media, and it's like that is one of those things that's just not very well developed, and so that's a whole other side tangent.
Just to round that bit up, it's not even like you have to be real in every post or you're being a terrible person. It's just like if that's all you're putting out there is like, oh, this is amazing, this is cool, this thing, you didn't do this, but you can see me living this life, and it's just like, if that's all you're putting out there, then that's all you're going to get back from people. Unless I talk to you or Melanie or whatever, but I just see, it's like seeing yourself like through a weird window. It's not a real thing. It's not a real perception of your life. It's like, if I see you posting a garden centre like post, or like you're doing something with work, oh, this thing is going really well. It's like, well, that's not real. You're doing something with work. Projects are stressful. Managing is stressful. Talking to different clients. There's got to be like a balance. Like, if you're going to put this much out, like, counteract it with something like, I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you're struggling as much as me. Not in like a nasty way, as in just in like a life way.
Yeah, just a community way. Yeah.
So that was part 1. I hope you enjoyed listening to a bit of our backstory of how we became friends and all of that entails with long distance, etc., etc. We also invite you to talk to us and start the conversation, because we want to hear what you think about social media, communication of today, and all that jazz. If it's probably Instagram is probably the best way to get in contact with us. If you want to have a chat with us, that's where you will find us on the interwebs. But see you later.